Hi there. Today we have Bruce Gladwin, the director, designer and devisor of the play Ganesha versus the Third Reich. This play is produced by the Back-to-Back Theatre, a Geelong-based company. Currently, this play is being staged as part of the Melbourne Festival. Bruce, can I start by asking you how the idea for this play came about?
Well, the catalyst for this play started 5 years ago, and we had one actor within our company, and our company is built around a core ensemble of 6 performers with intellectual disabilities. And we had one actor, Rita Halabarik, who's a young woman with Down syndrome, who was obsessed with Ganesh. And every day she would draw about 50 drawings of Ganesh, and she did that for about a year. And our office was covered in drawings of Ganesh, and that was our starting point with the idea of creating a play around Ganesh. And in many ways we didn't feel necessarily entitled to kind of, I guess, adapt an existing story of Ganesh, but we thought we'd try and make a play about a character, a person who is obsessed with Ganesh. And in our story, instead of someone creating drawings of Ganesh, it's actually someone writes a play about Ganesh. And our work is created through improvisation, so the actors undertake research along with me and the other collaborators, such as the set designers and the lighting designer, etc. And then we start improvising with the actors. And the dialogue within the play is really created through improvisation, plus passages and stories that we've taken directly from the scriptures, such as the Ganesha Purana, and influence from other stories such as the Ramayana, etc.
Okay. So, did you go through for this research on the Hindu gods? So, as you were mentioning that you have read, you went through Ganesh Purana and all.
Yeah.
So, what other research work did you undertake to understand the whole iconography and representation of Hindu gods in Vedic texts and various Puranas and Ramayana and Mahabharatas?
Yeah. First of all, well, this project has been being developed, as I was saying, for about 5 years. So early on, we had one of our collaborators on the project who worked on the writing, actually, who was resident in India, talking with theatre companies and theatre makers about, I guess, the issues about representing deities on stage and what would be, an acceptable form for us as a company outside of that context to present deities. And we also spoke with an academic, Dr. Greg Bailey, who has undertaken the English translation from Sanskrit to English of the Ganesha Purana. So he's not only expert of the content of the Puranas, but also about the history of the writing of those texts. And so he was really our main reference point. And also we looked, I guess, at the canon of representation of deities within Bollywood films, within theatre and dance, and tried to, I guess, create, we were obviously creating a piece of fiction, but we felt like that it was important that the representation of Ganesh and other deities existed within a canon of representation.
Okay. So, how did you go about selection of the cast for this play and the whole getting together of the
Okay. Our company is a little unusual in terms of a theatre company. We don't write a play and then find a cast, or we actually start with the cast, and the cast create the roles. So through improvisation, through research, we work with the actors for them to develop their characters and then bring that to performance.
Okay. So in this play, one of the things where you are utilizing most of the cast who are intellectually challenged, if I may say so.
Yes.
And this must be a very kind of a big responsibility of making certain texts or discussion, or this whole discussion, as you said, it is more improvised, and the whole play being created by the casts and the interaction with the director. So what were the kind of challenges that you faced, or what were something unique aspects of it?
Well, look, the actors, they're recognised as being people with disabilities, but also that they've been working on their craft now for many years, and they work in a full-time capacity. So one of our actors, Mark Deans, has been working with the company now for 18 years and is working on his craft as an actor, 5 days a week for 42 weeks of the year for 18 years. So in many ways, his skill level is quite high, despite the fact that he has Down syndrome. And there are issues in terms of working with script and research. Some of our actors don't read and write. So how we go about taking text and putting that to stage, we have various methods of supporting the actors to do that. And often with research, say with this play in particular, we sought out movies or stories that could represent, say we found a fantastic graphic novel of the Ramayana. And so that makes it accessible for our actors, being able to see a story in pictures.
So did this controversy which engulfs the play right now, especially with the Hindu community raising objection about certain aspects of the play, has this affected the cast or the play in any way?
It's definitely been difficult for the company, and it's not something that we would have preferred, obviously. And there's been a certain tension in terms of, not so much since the show has opened, but I guess dealing with some anxieties about what the play could be or may be. And I guess we were dealing with people's worst fear, that we were denigrating Ganesh.
What has been the response of the audience about the play?
It's a piece of contemporary theatre, and it raises a whole lot of issues, and they're issues that are, I guess, are quite varied. It raises issues about representation, about stories and who can tell what stories, issues around cultural appropriation, and issues around power and abuse of power and abuse of authority. So I think everyone has some sort of experience within that broad framework, and I think people are tending to be quite moved and affected by the story. It's not a comedy. It's not something where you can sit back and relax and enjoy it. It's not, Love Never Dies or the latest Andrew Lloyd Webber. It's not pure entertainment. It's actually a work to provoke thought and to provoke debate. And I think that discussion is continuing to happen after the performance.
Yeah. I especially found that the props, backgrounds and the use of multimedia has been planned and integrated in the play very well. So how did you plan all these things and integrate it so well into the play? Because we develop work over a long period of time, and we not only take a long time to try and develop the script and for the actors to have a really solid understanding of what they're performing, but we also undertake a number of technical developments about how we will realise the work. And with this, the set for this show is a series of plastic curtains which are lit from the rear and from the side to create almost like a kind of multi-planed picture of silhouettes. And we wanted to create something that was like a kind of mythical world, and that was unreal and quite unique. And we just spent a lot of time in the theatre putting up large sheets of plastic and design and lighting them and looking at the different properties of plastic. And we spent a lot of time with the sound and working with the actors and radio miking the actors and then pitch shifting their voices to try and create something that was appropriate, a way of representing the sound of a god. And because in a way Ganesh's power is represented through light and sound in our story. So we felt like it was really important that the production values supported, I guess, his kind of sense of integrity and authority. As you mentioned about the various questions that the play has raised, so I just want you to reiterate, according to you, what is the prime concern of the play?
For me, and I think each person is going to have a different idea, and in the end we try not to make a didactic piece of theatre. We actually try and make a story that takes place in the audience's head. This isn't a sermon. We're not telling people you should think this. We actually want to create thought in the audience's mind. And but for me personally, I feel like the story is about power and about abuse of power and abuse of authority, and how, especially in relationships that are very subtle. In our story, there's a character which is a director that ends up abusing one of the actors in the rehearsal room. And it's a very subtle form of abuse, really. And that's contrasted to Hitler and this kind of totalitarian leader who's, killed millions of people. But or I guess we're making a parallel that those subtle forms of abuse between a director and an actor, or between a doctor and a patient, or between a psychologist and a client, that those forms of relationships too are susceptible to abuse, and that in some ways everyone in the audience has a connection to that, because they have all, at some time been a student or a teacher, or have come across, in their own lives that dynamic of power.
You have addressed most of the questions, almost everything about it. Thank you so much, Bruce, for talking to us.
That's a pleasure.